Welcome back to Wordy and Nerdy. Today is both of us, Wordy and Nerdy, back together talking shit about DC. The world is right again. So here's the plan for the video. Time codes below if you want to skip around. We're going to talk about Black Adam, complete spoilers, and then we're going to talk about the most recent DC news. Time is always moving. We all have a limited amount of time on this earth. We must make the most of it. Some of us spend time with loved ones, and some of us spend time making our dreams reality. If you're The Rock, you spend 14 years of your life just making the most generic movie of all time.
We said meh. M-E-H. Meh.
I mean, it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, but it was certainly nothing to write home about. It was like, it certainly wasn't like, oh snap, I can totally tell that this like took 14 years or whatever. I mean, it was truly the most like mid-regular like DC movie. Did not have high expectations going in. The special effects weren't very good. The story wasn't very interesting. The dialogue was really bad. The only like positive things I could say is like Pierce Brosnan had a pretty good performance. I enjoyed meeting Cyclone and Adam Smasher, even though they really didn't do anything. They were certainly there. And then there's also Hawkman. So it was like they introduced some interesting characters, but they did nothing with them. Dwayne Johnson is not a good actor. And like, it's funny because it's like, okay, so just like John Cena, Dwayne Johnson is a wrestler turned actor. The difference is that John Cena surprised us all by showing that he actually knows how to act. We had no such surprises from The Rock. He's about as good as you would think, and just not very much. Now, he's okay when he plays like fun, charismatic characters like Maui and Moana, or like every other stock character he plays in every movie. But when he's trying to be like serious or stoic or threatening, yeah, it's not happening.
Nothing about it screams to me like why you would wait 14 years for this movie.
It's like I almost feel bad because I feel like, clearly The Rock wanted it to be something because he was sure pushing this thing and he never gave up on it for more than a decade, and I think he ended up producing it. It was probably the only reason it even got made in the first place. And so it's like, this was definitely a passion project of his, and it's like, I can respect that, but the finished product did not leave me like, boy, that was worth it. Dwayne The Rock Johnson basically uses his money to play make-believe by like casting himself in whatever movies he wants to be in. Use movies as power fantasies where he can be a big tough badass and do whatever he wants, which I can't really fault. I mean, if I had unlimited money and resources, I might do something very similar. But he definitely doesn't strike me as an artiste. It isn't like, oh, he's making high quality films. He's just kind of doing whatever he wants to because he thinks it looks cool. Which, is fine, but it doesn't make for a very compelling film.
One of the things that I would like to point out, he kept on talking about and preparing for this movie, the DC hierarchy will finally change because of this movie.
Which, first of all, I wasn't aware that the DCU had a hierarchy, if I'm being completely honest. It's not even like Marvel where like you can have a decent guess on like, Captain Marvel's like super strong and Hawkeye isn't. But like, it's so inconsistent and random with the DC universe. Not that Marvel is perfect, but like DC is a fucking mess.
After this movie, did you feel like the hierarchy changed?
Not remotely.
In the DC?
I didn't feel like it. Frankly, I forgot it was a DC movie until they would throw in occasional characters that I recognized, like Amanda Waller, which, let me tell you, Viola Davis better be getting her check because she is one of the only redeeming factors of a lot of these movies. Like, she's the only thing, she and Margot Robbie are the only thing that made the original Suicide Squad worth watching. And I wouldn't even say they made it worth watching, they were just the only performances that weren't awful.
And she was the good part of this.
Yeah.
Even though
her whole appearance in this was like green screened in. Yes.
And also it brings so many questions.
Yeah, like apparently she has godlike power, which they have not explained at all. Like I understood she ran like the Suicide Squad, Task Force X. Okay, cool, I get that. But then she was like, we're gonna call in Superman, and then she does, and I'm like, since the fuck when did she do that?
When did she call Superman?
I've never seen her work with the Justice League. Like, what?
No!
Like, she doesn't show up in the Justice League movie. It's like, what? Since when does she have these connections?
And doesn't, like, Batman hate her? Or something?
Probably. I mean, she's like one of the most ruthless evil bitches in the DCEU. I love her for it, but she's absolutely sadistic. Like, she's probably one of the biggest villains that doesn't have any powers.
Did DC see Nick Fury and then think the same shit could happen here with her?
Like, they were like, oh, but she's not a Nick Fury type character.
No!
She's like ruthless.
Yeah!
Like, Nick Fury wouldn't order you to like murder a bunch of South American citizens.
Did they even forget Suicide Squad that James Gunn made? Because, like, the starfish got loose and they were about to
and
go
just to protect Americans' dirty secrets, she was gonna like leave them all to die.
She was just gonna kill all of them right there. She is not the.
She's not a good. I mean, she even her own daughter. Like, she had her in extremely dangerous situations. Like, the movie itself is basically like a response to a kind of superhero movie that hasn't existed since the 80s, in terms of like, good guys never kill and bad, like all that. Like, that's the whole premise of like, oh, he's totally a bad guy. Why? Well, because he kills people. Okay, well, in the DCEU, all of the heroes kill people, including Batman, including Wonder Woman. I mean, literally, Wonder Woman in the first movie, her entire goal for 90% of that movie was to straight up murder a guy. Yep. Like, it wasn't even like, I must imprison him, or I must make him see the light. No, she was literally walking around going, I have to kill Ares, I have to kill Ares, I have to kill Ares, I have to kill Ares. Like, nobody had any qualms about murder up until this point, so what are you talking about? Here, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson with the terrible accent, but it was very jarring that they spent the time to establish that he comes from like this ancient, vaguely Middle Eastern world. He comes out and doesn't have a hint of an accent or even speak in an old-fashioned way. He spoke perfect English. They didn't even explain that. They weren't even like, oh, it's not like he started speaking another language. And you could have at least taught him like one sentence in another language and then had some kind of magical explanation, like some Pocahontas tree magic or something, to explain why they could understand each other. Yeah. But they didn't do any of that. They didn't even bother. It was just like, well, he's from an ancient land thousands of years ago.
He just speaks perfect
presumably
English.
Thousands of years before English even existed as a language, but he can speak perfect English in an American accent because fuck you.
I got the director, by the way.
Oh, who is it? Kwame Kolitsera?
He made the Jungle Cruise.
Oh, well, okay. Jungle Cruise. I never watched Jungle Cruise. Frankly, I've never understood the phenomenon of making movies out of theme park rides. No. I mean, like, who the fuck cares? Even like Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, I feel like that's the one time it kind of worked. And Haunted Mansion's okay too, but Haunted Mansion is just okay as a goofy, spooky movie for Halloween, not because it's actually a good film. Like, those movies were fun at least, but like, I wouldn't say they were masterpieces of filmmaking.
How dare you?
Yeah, that time where like Johnny Depp was a bunch of Johnny Depps running around acting like, I gotta draw dirt or whatever. Yeah, that was peak cinema.
Why do you think Black Adam just fought a generic devil?
Because
instead of fighting Shazam or Superman to make the movie interesting at all, like, the number one thing that people were talking about for this movie before they came out, it's dumb, but it's fun.
Yeah, I still hear people saying that. I'm like, I don't see where the fun part is. Yeah. I've watched dumb fun movies. There are dumb fun movies and there are dumb movies. Dumb Fun is like that Biscuit movie we watched the other week. That movie was ridiculous, but it was funny. This was just dumb.
Yes. And I didn't, like, laugh or stuff like that.
There were a few moments where I laughed, and I don't think they were the moments where I was supposed to laugh. There were a few moments that were just so radically stupid that I started laughing. But most of it wasn't even that, like, wasn't even so bad it's good, or like, oh, well, at least it's goofy. But like, Moonfall is another one, where that movie is so fucking ridiculous from beginning to end. It's just absurd. It is one of the dumbest movies in the world. The premise is outlandish. One of the characters is like the dude who plays Sam in Game of Thrones, but he's some dude who's obsessed with the moon for some reason, and then the moon ends up being a giant egg laid by aliens or some shit.
Yes, that's the definition of dumb to fun. Listen, I knew this movie wasn't going to be a masterpiece by no means, and I was not really looking forward to this movie, to be honest, but at least it could have been that.
Yeah.
Dumb fun, like everyone was saying.
Dialogue exchanges that were like genuinely funny, and that's just to credit like the actors who were delivering the lines. Like the guy who plays Hawkman did a good job. Pierce Brosnan did a good job with his character, even though I didn't know much about him. It's like he was likable as a character. He's just a likable guy. You know, I think that the actors playing Cyclone and Atom Smasher, they did, you know, the best they could with what few lines they were given. Henry Winkler makes a cameo. So, like, it's cute. Clearly the actors are trying their best, but they just don't have a lot to work with.
Thank you for bringing Dr. Fate. I just find it so funny that he signed up for one movie.
Yeah, like, oh, he's gonna get killed off, he's gonna sacrifice himself, even though the movie doesn't even bother, like, really showing why he would sacrifice himself in that moment. So you're left just sitting there like, well, obviously he just didn't want to make any more movies.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I've got to sacrifice myself. Are you sure? Because we could probably, no, I have to sacrifice myself.
We probably could all take him out.
No, we probably don't need you to do that, actually. No, it's fine, I gotta do this.
We probably could all fight the
devil.
No,
I have to sacrifice myself.
Are you sure?
I promise, it has to be me, it can only be me.
I think we can all help you here.
Nope, I gotta die.
Why are you blocking us off here?
I really want to die. Please do not try to stop me.
Any wrapping thoughts you want to talk about Black Adam before we move on to the next topic?
It's a story, and it's interesting, I suppose. And no, it's not interesting, but it's it's just okay. I mean, I don't know if it's Suicide Squad bad. Even Suicide Squad, I think, was more entertainingly bad.
Yeah.
The dialogue in Suicide Squad is so hysterically awful.
Yeah.
Like when they just drop Katana in the middle of the fucking helicopter with no backstory. They're just like, this is Katana. She gets your sword traps. So they just give her a whole backstory.
Yeah.
And it's just like verbally explain it, and that's just it. And then she has like 2 lines in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Or when they were like, or when Will Smith goes over some kind of Suicide Squad. One of my favorite lines in Suicide Squad is when somebody's like, you guys are all like hideous freaks or whatever, and then the Crocodile Man goes, not me, I'm beautiful. That was so fucking funny. Like, I was like, that was great. And then the actor tried to spin it like it was some deep, powerful moment. And like, did you see that cast interview?
Yeah.
Where he was like, I just think that's a beautiful moment where he like is happy in himself as like a crocodilian black man. And I'm like, okay, dude, that was a funny line, but it is not even remotely approaching that deep. I didn't walk away from that like, wow, not since Martin Luther King's speeches have I heard such powerful
words. Hey, it's Nerdy. I hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. One thing I would like to add about Black Adam before moving on to the James Gunn story. Black Adam is not making its money back. The movie costs around $195, $200 million, not including marketing. Right now, it has made $325 million since the release of Black Panther. It's not going to make any more money. And it does not help that Black Panther made more money than Black Adam in one weekend. So, sorry Rock, it's not looking like you're gonna get a Black Adam universe anytime soon. And you just wasted 15 years of your life. Either way, on to the second part of the video, the James Gunn news. Thank you. And James Gunn has laid out focus on the Trinity characters. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. He wants to focus on that more. He also wants to focus on Harley Quinn. He does not care about the Flash or Cyborg at all. Mm-hmm. He does not want to do anything about that.
I can't imagine why he would want to make any more Flash movies. It's not like the actor playing Flash is committing a string of felonies on a regular basis.
And he wants to keep the Joker and the Batman universe completely separate. He does not want to touch it at all.
Like, those movies were fine. Like, DC genuinely does better when they're, like, not trying to make a giant universe.
He signed a 4-year contract
he has to talk to David first before he does like a radical thing, like you're talking about cutting an entire movie.
Which I heard that the board at Warner Brothers have wanted to do for quite some time.
Yeah.
As Ezra Miller literally could not stop getting arrested for a period there, but or like being accused of some horrible, heinous crime. Ezra Miller is physically assaulting people at a bar. Ezra Miller is starting a cult. Ezra Miller is kidnapping indigenous girls. It never ends. And so, apparently David Zaslav was the only one who was on Team Ezra Miller during that whole debacle. But, so as for what I think about it, it's like, obviously I think James Gunn is a competent writer and director. I think that he did a good job with Guardians of the Galaxy. I think he did an excellent job with the Suicide Squad. I mean, he truly, truly touched me with the Suicide Squad in ways that I did not expect at all. I mean, I didn't know what to expect with the Suicide Squad. My expectations were pretty low because it was still a Suicide Squad movie. But truly, I did not expect Taika Waititi dressed as a homeless drug addict to make me cry with a one paragraph cameo monologue that was playing over Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn flying through the eyeball juice of a giant starfish while a bunch of rats ate that starfish from the inside out. Nothing about the scene I just described sounds like it's touching, but it made me bawl like a baby.
Yep.
And that is the magic of James Gunn. And all the crazy shit that happened during Peacemaker. Like, good God. I did not, first of all, after what John Cena's character did in the movie, I was like, how in the world are they going to make Peacemaker a likable character? That is just no way. He's such a piece of shit. But the way that they made him a sympathetic character, the way they incorporated tragedy into his character, it's just masterful. So I think he's an excellent writer. But my concern is, will the studio be able to stop meddling? Like, for instance, when he signed on to make the Suicide Squad, one of his conditions was, I'm not going to do it unless you let me make it rated R.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to make it PG-13. They're very, very, very iffy about trying to make movies rated R, even though Deadpool proved that it can work. They were like, that wasn't a DC movie, but I'm just saying, that proved that rated R superhero movies can work. But they were real nervous about it. They were like, oh, no, make it PG-13. We want to kill faceless CGI aliens. And I'm like, and for James Gunn to insist to make it gory, to make it brutal, to make it rated R, true, that movie could not have existed if it wasn't rated R. Like, and the stakes, I mean, I pointed this out before, but like, the overall, like, messaging and themes, the Suicide Squad, are actually pretty similar to some of the messaging and themes in Black Adam. Except they were done so much better in Black Adam they were done so much better in the Suicide Squad. They were done so much better in the Suicide Squad. Firstly, because they had the freedom of that rating, where instead of having the oppressed minorities, even though you show them being oppressed by like colonizers, at the end of the day they didn't rise up against the colonizers, they rose up against faceless demons. And so, with the way that the climax of the Suicide Squad, where they're actually able to rise up against actual human oppressors, which, you know, is relatable in a way that fighting faceless CGI aliens is not.
Yeah. He's already signed up that he wants to do Peacemaker Season 2. Mm-hmm. He wants to do a Amanda Waller TV show.
Okay, now I'd watch the shit out of that.
There's also a rumor spinoff, either be a Harley Quinn show or something with a Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy.
Oh, that would be cool.
That's the rumor so far for his TV show. For movie-wise, there is apparently a rumor that he wants to make Justice League Dark. Justice League Dark has been picking up in popularity because they just did 2 anime movies that were apparently really good. To give some credit, DC always had phenomenal animation. Way better than Marvel.
Yes. Yeah, that's one. Yeah. That is one realm where they kick Marvel's ass.
Yeah, I really enjoy the DC animated.
Except for Spider-Man. Spider-Man animated is pretty much always good, but other than that, Marvel does not know what to do with animation.
Yeah. Some people also want him to do Superman 2, Man of Steel 2, because Henry Cavill quit The Witcher.
But that's weird to me, though, because it's like, I'm surprised that he wouldn't be able to work that around his schedule where he'd have to quit the show entirely.
There's a rumor that he signed a 5-picture contract with them.
So
and that means that he's gonna be in like other like probably Justice League or something like that. Because
Yeah.
I mean, when actors sign picture projects, it's all outlined in the contract, but like it doesn't have to be a single picture in terms of like they're the main character. But I think there's also limitations to like how long they're on the screen. Like there can be a cameo that doesn't count as a picture.
my problem was the way he was written and the way he was directed. You have not convinced me who's going to direct or write it, but I do not want James Gunn. I want James Gunn to do more Skr stuff. I've seen Superman's going to get a new movie every 10 years probably,
Yeah.
because he's the most popular DC character ever, other than Batman.
Yeah, but I say Batman is
Yeah.
more popular than Superman.
Other than
People who are fans of Batman go hard for Batman.
Yeah, other than Batman. But how many times would you be able to see a Justice League Dark movie? How often are you going to see the Suicide Squad or the Suicide Squad 2 if he makes it?
Yeah.
I would like him to do more weird, out of control stuff. I do not want him to do Superman.
I just think his talent would be wasted on a Superman movie unless he did something radically different with it, which I don't think that David Zaslav is going to let him do.
No.
Because I think that you can go some interesting directions. I was talking about some other podcast with Close Encounters of the Word Kind, which you can follow now. I'll always be plugging new episodes every Friday. And we were talking about how, like, you can tell a different kind of Superman story if you really focus in on the angle of him being, like, an immigrant. Because that is kind of the angle. I mean, when Superman was first written, by Jewish comic book writers in like the 30s. So like they were sort of seeing similar to Captain America in terms of like somebody to fight against Nazis and somebody to stand up for oppressed communities, and somebody who comes from, in this case, literally another planet, but obviously it's a metaphor for like coming from a different country. So you could do something interesting with that if you really lean into it, but I don't think that David Zaslav can do that.
No.
Like,
I don't know.
I mean, it's like, I hope that like we have some more like comprehensive ideas for these characters. When I think about like the Snyder Cut, I think about like how the Snyder Cut was 4 hours of intense bullshit, including like 4 after credit sequences of these random ideas that Zack Snyder had that had never and probably will never come into fruition. And it's just like, I mean, if you thought the Snyderverse was already like a mess, he threw all kinds of shit in there. Martian Manhunter, a future verse where Harley Quinn got murdered by Batman or something, like, which is like weird stuff. I'm like, okay, what were you ever gonna do with this?
That's one of my questions. Like, can this actually be saved? They screwed up so many villains, especially for Superman.
Especially Joker.
Everyone still forgets.
Screwed up Zod.
In Batman v Superman, they screwed up Lex Luthor and Doomsday, 2 iconic Superman villains, and they just screwed them up so much.
Isn't Lex Luthor just like Jeff Bezos? I don't even understand what his thing is.
Yeah, but he's apparently an icon in Superman. But did you feel anything about Jesse Eisenberg's?
About as much as I felt for Jared Leto being like,
Yeah.
let me give you the reach around.
Yes.
Like, oh my god, Jared Leto did so much. Remember that weird promo shit that Jared Leto did for the Snyder Cut where he like posed as Jesus? What was that about? Like, dude, do you understand who the Joker is? I mean, the answer is a resounding no, but like, I have never seen somebody so fundamentally misunderstand the Joker as a character. He's like a Colombian drug lord / Hot Topic manager / emo boy / he's tattoos damaged on his forehead so you know that he's damaged / also he is Jesus. Like, what?
So James Gunn was saying, if you want to continue those characters, I do not mind a recast at all. You can recast all those right there.
Please do. Jared Leto's a terrible person and not really that good of an actor either.
Yeah.
He's not even one of those bad people where it's like, well, he plays a hell of a Joker. Like, no, he really doesn't.
No. Same thing with Will Smith's Deadshot. That he was okay.
I mean, he was better than Jared Leto, but that's more of an example of, again, not being given enough to do.
Yeah.
Like, you don't cast. I mean, Will Smith is like an iconic actor. They gave him nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
They did give him nothing.
Well, what do we know? Some kind of
Suicide
Squad.
Squad.
Like, what in the hell is going on right now? I mean, that's what it comes down to. A lot of this comes down to writing and directing choices. It's like some of it is acting, but, you know, you can cast the best actors in the world. If you give them a shit script, there's only so much they're going to be able to do with it. So it's like, yeah, we had people like, you know, Jared Leto or Jai Courtney, people that aren't phenomenal actors. But you also had people like Viola Davis or Will Smith or Margot Robbie who could do a good job if they were given a decent script, but, you know.
I just want to remind people, this is not going to be instantaneous. We're still going to have to probably suffer through Aquaman 2. That he's probably not going to be able to do a lot with that movie because that's coming out right out of the gate.
And is that the last Aquaman movie? Or is Jason Momoa doing more?
I don't know. That's a good question. Same thing with Wonder Woman 3. Wonder Woman 3, I don't know if they're going to bring back Gal Gadot after Wonder Woman 3. She has expressed that she only wants to do one more movie.
I didn't even know they were doing Wonder Woman 3, but I also never got the impression that Gal Gadot was all that passionate about being Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Okay, also, you want to talk about actor Gal Gadot? I'm sorry, I don't know if this is controversial. I don't think it is, though. She's not a very good actress.
No.
She's very beautiful, but she's more of a model than an actress.
Yep.
I hate to say that. That sounds so sexist. But, I mean, it's not because she's a woman. She just sucks. Like, she's just not a good actress. Like, Margot Robbie's incredible, but Gal Gadot is giving very much nothing.
Yeah.
It worked for the first Wonder Woman movie because her character's supposed to be a fish out of water. Yeah. So her kind of going around like, dude, what's happening? Worked for the first movie, but after that, it's like, all right.
Yeah, you can't. It's not the same.
What I want is for him to basically do what he did with the Suicide Squad, which is like, it technically exists within the same universe, but he kind of paid very little attention to the canon of the first film. He didn't contradict the canon, he just didn't really address it at all. They barely mentioned it, they barely alluded to it, it just had very little to do with what was happening in that movie. They had new characters, they had Harley, like they still had Margot Robbie as Harley, but they did not dwell on the thing with the Joker. They were just like, alright, we've already dealt with that in Birds of Prey, we're just letting her be her own person now, it's fine. We are finally freeing Harley Quinn from the shackles of the Joker and realizing that she can be a perfectly fine character in her own right, and you do not have to chain her to Joker to make her an interesting character. Yep. I'm cautiously optimistic for James Gunn in terms of, I certainly think he, as an artist, as a director, and as a showrunner himself, is capable of making it good. The question is, will they allow him to make it good? And that is the mystery that I do not have an answer to yet, and we'll just have to see.
Yeah,
that's so
basically everything.
That's where we're at, and it's like, I think that, you know, I mean, it's like, I want DC to do well. I do. It's like, and people, I mean, I think that sometimes, you know, I'll rag on DC, and then people will be like, oh, you're a Marvel fan, hooty-boo-hoo-boo. But it's like, listen, I would love to have an alternative to Marvel that is equally entertaining in a different way. One of the reasons I loved the Suicide Squad, I know there were a couple of haters who were like, oh, it's just a Marvel movie. But it's like, no, Marvel would never release a movie like that. Yeah. I mean, like, no. I mean, it's like, it's very different in tone than something that Marvel would ever do. Because Marvel would never want their perfect, all-American, good guy, beautiful characters to do any of that shit. Even their like more morally questionable characters. Yeah. Marvel does not like moral complexity in their movies. I'm sorry, but they did a whole series on Hawkeye and never once were like, hey, can we take some time to seriously address that whole period of time where you turned into a serial killer and murdered like exclusively non-white people?
And they didn't even
can we address that? Maybe discuss it.
They didn't even touch it.
I mean, they like only in the sense that they were like, well, this is the reason that what's her name? I'm sorry. Echo. This is why Echo wants to kill him, and it's like, I mean, you have yet to convince me that she's wrong in wanting to kill him. Yeah. It kind of feels valid.
You kind of just made Echo more.
Like, she's more sympathetic, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, didn't he murder her dad, like, in front of her? Like, I'm just like, you know, we have yet to hear a real explanation for any of that. So,
yeah, you didn't really apologize to her, Hawkeye.
He's just like grumpy. He's like, oh, I've done some bad things. I'm like, yeah, let's delve into exactly what the ramification of those things are.
Nah.
Like, DC is capable of making decent movies. This is not the DCEU, but like the Batman, again, one of the greatest Batman movies that has been released in years. I mean, I showed it to my dad, who swore off Batman movies after the Tim Burton movie in the 90s because he hated it so much. And we showed it to him last time we were over at my parents' house, and he really liked it. So it's like, that was like a good classic film noir mystery. There wasn't a whole lot of bullshit. The climax at the end wasn't aliens or lasers from space. It was just a good old-fashioned mystery superhero movie. And the whole appeal of Batman is that he feels like he's a character that, like, you could fantasize that you could be if you had enough money. Because he doesn't have superpowers. He's just really smart and has tech.
Yeah, I agree. Appreciate you watching or listening to this.
Yes, and you can follow us on, obviously, YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, or, regardless, as well as podcast, and you should follow us on Twitch. We do the Jackbox streams every Friday, pretty much, at 9. John plays Resident Evil and God of War and some other boring boy games. So all of that fun stuff, and of course the links for all of that will be in the description.
Yeah. Either way, we appreciate you watching.
Stay nerdy.